Hello, welcome to Strange Time 17. What have I got for you today? I've got an old story that's included in a new book about an alien that was shot. And I've got one from Australia, which is about this giant shadow. And I've got a kind of a dodgy one, I guess, about a UFO that had been dug up in Russia. And then I've got some video footage of a UFO. So, let us begin. Was an alien shot and killed in the Pine Barrens of New Jersey? A new book titled Strange Craft, The True Story of an Air Force Intelligence Officer's Life with UFOs, claims that a military police officer shot an extraterrestrial being at Fort Dix in the early morning hours of January 18, 1978. In the book, by author John L. Guerra, retired Air Force Major George Filer III, is that right? The third? It's got like 3 eyes. I don't know if that's a typo or he's number 3. And he's a decorated former intelligence officer for the 21st Air Force, Military Airlift Command at the adjacent McGuire Air Force Base, recounts the extraordinary tale. Filer, who's now 84 and living in Medford with his wife Janet, said what has been an urban legend first promulgated by UFO enthusiasts since the early 1980s is indeed true. That's because he was there and wrote a top-secret memo about it, he said. In the freezing winter darkness of that day in January 1978, a bipedal creature described as about 4 feet in height and greyish-brown in colour, with a fat head, long arms and slender body, was shot to death with 5 rounds fired from a service member's .45 caliber military issue M1911A1 handgun. As Guerra explains it in his book, the soldier had originally been in a police pickup truck, driving through the wilderness of the base in pursuit of a strange, low-flying aircraft that had been observed passing through the military installation's airspace at about 2 a.m. that morning. About an hour into the drive, the soldier became aware that the craft, oval-shaped and radiating a blue-green glow, was hovering directly over his vehicle. That's when the creature emerged from the shadows on foot, revealing itself to the soldier by stepping into the beams of the vehicle's headlights, where the panicked MP drew his weapon, and he ordered the alien to freeze, and then he fired. According to the retired major, as told in the book, the alleged alien succumbed to its gunshot wounds on the Air Force side of what is now Joint Base McGuire-Dix-Lakehurst in Burlington County, its remains giving off a foul-smelling ammonia-like stench. Later that morning, a cleanup crew from Wright-Patterson Air Force Base in Ohio, headquarters of the National Air and Space Intelligence Center, flew in to retrieve the body, behaving as if the creature was, well, not entirely alien to them. Filer, who has most recently served as the state director for an organization called MUFON, the Mutual UFO Network, which catalogues and investigates UFO sightings throughout the United States, never actually saw the dead alien. However, Filer said he knows for a fact that the story is true. It should be noted that Filer has claimed to have seen UFOs throughout his entire life, starting when he was 5 outside his boyhood home in Illinois. On that January morning in 1978, Filer said he arrived home on base before dawn to prepare his daily 8 a.m. intelligence briefing for his superior officers. In the book, he explains that when he arrived, security at the base had been tightened, and he personally observed the emergency response in the aftermath of the incident. He also said he interviewed some of the witnesses from the scene for a report on what happened, which he was required to file. However, he was denied access to and was never cleared to see photos that he said were taken at the scene. The senior master sergeant runs everything, from who sweeps the floors to organising the staff schedules and making sure phones and faxes are up and running, Filer quoted in the book. He was agitated, his face was pale, and his eyes were wide open. Then he said the strangest thing. An alien has been shot at Fort Dix, and they found it on the end of our runway at McGuire Air Force Base. Filer said he replied, "Was it an alien from another country?" "No, it was from outer space. A space alien," the sergeant explained. "There are UFOs buzzing around the pattern like mad." Buzzing around the pattern. Pattern. I wonder if that's a military term. Later, the Air Force classified everything as top secret and silenced the witnesses through national security restrictions and good old-fashioned intimidation. Everyone, that is, except Filer. Filer has spoken publicly about the 1978 incident before, and the incident itself has been the subject of discussion and speculation in the UFO community since the early 1980s. Details about it appear to have been first reported in the Trentonian on July 10, 2007. The Trentonian had reported 12 years ago that the Air Force repeatedly denied the claim, telling the newspaper that, quote, "the case was discredited as a hoax years ago." I don't know much about George Filer, but I know he's been in the game for yonks. I remember that name from a long time ago. I think he used to have a website, and maybe he still does, the Filer Files, where it was like a collection of UFO reports. I might have to check that out, actually. And so here we go, another story in Australia that could be another yowie, but there's not as much detail in this story. Shadow Stalker. I was 15, was at my boyfriend's house, and it was about 10:30 p.m. We were sitting on his trampoline in his backyard, which faces a small park behind his house. His yard is on a ground level about 1 metre or 3 feet above the ground level that the park is on, and his fence is on that lower level. So by sitting on the trampoline, we could see out into the darkness of the park, which was just slightly illuminated by his yard lights. We were talking when suddenly I feel an eerie chill, like we were being watched, like something wants us to know we're being watched. I remember glancing all over the place and jumping at the smallest sounds of the night, and my boyfriend laughing at me. And all before he suddenly stilled and rose up onto his knees to look at something in the park. "There's a man watching us from that tree," he said. Jesus, those words still chill me to the core. I froze and asked him to tell me what he was doing. He told me that the man was very tall, almost halfway up the tree, which was a large eucalyptus. We live in Queensland, Australia. And that only his head and shoulder were really visible, and that his eyes were glowing or reflecting the light from his yard lights. I wondered if he was lying and making fun of me again for being paranoid earlier, so I sat up and leaned over him to see for myself. There it was. It was tall, darker than the shadows of the trees, and wasn't lit up like the trees were from the lights. Its eyes were shining brightly, and it was exceptionally tall. Couldn't be a man. And the shoulder and the arm draped over the tree suggested it was not an animal either. I fell back onto the trampoline, and my boyfriend told me to be quiet and to start moving back towards the house, because it was moving towards us. I shook my head, and I did not want to move. I couldn't bring myself to move. I was frozen in fear. I don't know, but I remember he had to force me up, swearing loudly and telling me it was nearly at the fence. I got up and caught a glance of a figure nearly across the short distance from the trees to his yard and booked it to the stairs up to his front door. I glanced back to look again, and the boyfriend yelled not to, that it was climbing over the fence, and I somehow moved even faster and made it to the door without tripping up the stairs and breaking a leg. He told me again that it had been trying to climb over the fence when I slowed down to take a look. It was definitely not just some creepy man. This shadowy thing was at least 3 meters tall, around 9 to 10 feet, and had bright, glowing white eyes. So, that could really be anything. It falls into several categories of paranormal entities. It could be a yowie, maybe. It could be something like the Mothman or the Owlman. Or it could be one of these weird shadow men that I keep reading about lately. Like a demon type thing. But anyway, from cryptids to flying saucers. Well, sort of. Flying saucer found buried underground stuns Russian coal miners. A UFO has been discovered lying buried in a Russian coal mine. A recently resurfaced video has bizarrely claimed. Russian state media claim the mysterious UFO-shaped object was discovered in a coal mine in Belovo district, Kemerovo. Russia Today reported the UFO as measuring 3.9 feet, which is about 1.2 meters, across, and weighing approximately 200 kilograms. 200 kg is pretty damn heavy. Let me just check something. We're talking about 440 pounds. The outlandish claims were accompanied with a brief interview with an unmanned... What? God. I really should have edited this article because it's messy. Okay. Outlandish claims were accompanied with a brief interview with an unnamed man. It's got unmanned man here, who claimed to have helped discover the UFO. He said, quote, I don't know why I said he said, quote. Anyway, let's continue. Get on with it. Just bloody get on with it. Jeez. The excavator driver told me that he had found an unusual object on the coal face. I arrived at the coal basin and saw this thing. At first I thought it was a shield, but we put it on its edge, and I saw that it looks like a UFO. I believe this find may be some kind of object for throwing. A 200 kilogram object for throwing. I'd say that 200 kg must be a typo, because also it'd be pretty difficult to prop up a 200 kilogram rock on its side. So, take this article with a huge grain of salt. And you can see with the photos it's dodgy as. But I thought I'd throw it in anyway. It's a bit of fun, I guess. So where was I? Okay. I believe this find may be some kind of object for throwing. It is possible if the ancients were bigger than us, they might have used this disc for throwing. If they were way bigger than us. Or it could have been some kind of miniature copy. That is, if people saw in the sky objects like this, they may have made a copy of it. Alien life advocate Scott Waring is among the minority believing the miniature disc-shaped object really could be a UFO. He took to his etdatabase.com blog to speculate about the odd object. I believe what they have found is a UFO drone ship. These smaller drones are used as scouts for keeping larger ships safe. Often a UFO will have these small scouts, or even smaller baseball-sized orbs, rotating around the UFO like a protective shield. Many such UFO discs have been found around the world, always heavy and appear to be made of stone. However, I do not believe it is really stone, but a condensed nanorobotic micromaterial that strengthens the UFO like stone, but actually is a complex network. I apologize, I am struggling to get through this today. I believe if we looked at its material under an electron microscope, we would find evidence of micro-alien tech. And that's that article. Sorry about that, that was a mess. I would redo it, but I'm a lazy man. Alright, let's wrap this up. I've got here some footage of a flying saucer over Milan in Italy. This was filmed on August 10th, 2019, and this is the story behind the footage. Antonio Urzi filmed a golden flying saucer. Antonio was at work near Cincello Balsamo in Milan when he had a feeling something was about to happen, feeling a certain attraction to go out and watch the sky. Shortly thereafter, with his camera, he began to look at the sky, and after a few minutes he was able to see a disc-shaped object. Antonio was incredibly surprised by the appearance of what he called a spaceship. Quote, "I felt something. I was attracted to leave the workplace, but to film a beautiful spaceship like this, I did not expect," said Antonio. And I'm watching the original footage here, which is shaky as f***. Sometimes when I put the video through my editing software, it auto stabilizes it. So hopefully it's stabilized it. But it's kind of clear footage, I guess, apart from the shakiness. But you get no sense of how big it is. And so I guess without any further details, it remains inconclusive, at least from my point of view. I always tend to sit on the fence because, I want to trust people, I want to trust their stories, but I know that there are hoaxes out there. Alright, that's all I got for today. I know it's a bit messy, but hopefully you'll forgive. I think you will. Most of you will. Alright, anyway. Thanks, guys. I'll see you next week with another Strange Times.